I'm seeing this narrative evolve. So to go through the workspace, the workplace bucket of change, which I always, again, I try to give you the big picture of those 4 big buckets. I just thought that if you didn't know what it's going to look like when you go back to the office, and many of us are going to continue working from home, this is an example of Cushman and Wakefield's design of what it's going to look like in our workplace. So these 6 feet, they're calling it the 6 feet office, like 6 feet under, which was, you know, that television show about a family who run a funeral facility. And 6 feet office is basically going to have desks that are basically divided by plexiglass with 6 feet desks. So 6 foot desks. So you're basically, here's another example. So you're social distancing from each other. There's a great video, and if we have time at the end, I'll show it, that shows like their actual vision of the entire workplace. I actually will put it in Slack at the end. If I forget, somebody just put it in text. But it's interesting to see, you know, where this is the video. What the workplace will look like and how we're going to redesign it. In China, they're actually using these types of desks that aren't just, and these are like actually been soundproof areas, but now they're like corona-proof areas. But the other thing that's really cool about it is that it actually is equipped with germ-killing air purifiers and jars of hand sanitizers so that you can, again, prevent exposure. In terms of the space, and I'm not talking about outer space, I'm talking about workspace, Frontier Airlines actually just announced that they could keep their distance by, you know, paying extra money to have a seat that doesn't have somebody next to you. It's probably going to be an additional $39 to $89 depending on the route. But again, here's an example of those companies that are defining the future of how we're going to interact with people. And in this, I thought it would be interesting just to see how workers from the rest of the world are experiencing going back to work. This is actually in Milan. This is a bookstore in Milan as well. So look how they are basically social distancing as they're getting back. There's going to be a lot of ways to take our temperature before going to work. In fact, in Italy, masks and temperature are actually required on public transportation. Here is a school in Athens where somebody, and he's not wearing this bodysuit to prevent himself from getting corona, he's wearing this bodysuit so that he doesn't get ingest any type of chemicals. Here is in Rome, people waiting for transportation. So it's really interesting to learn from the rest of the world. This is pretty amazing. Look at the orchestration of this restaurant in Milan. Here is a hair salon in Spain. So how are we going to use these examples to see if they work moving forward? And then there was another piece also in the New York Times that talked about, you know, in parts of, or showed parts of Asia and Australia. This is basically a high school in Taiwan. This is a church in Seoul. This is a dance studio in Seoul. This is in Beijing, a registration area where a cop or a police person is basically monitoring who can go up, and you see that they're social distancing. Police officers, thought that was fascinating. And, you know, just to make sure that everybody's doing okay, this is like a monitoring technology system of screening. So as America, because I know many of us are in America, although I saw somebody from Berlin and South Africa. Wow, that's so cool. I love that there are people from the rest of the world. It's interesting of how we can learn from other people. So that is the future of workspace. Now I am going to